Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and this is the final instalment in the Art by Marlene stencil advent calendar. So this is going to be day 23, 24 and 25. So happy Christmas everybody. I hope you've had a lovely Christmas. And I'm just sharing these last three tags with you. So this one I decided I was going to do some surprise reductive stenciling again. I didn't add gesso onto this tag, so I thought it would be interesting for you to see the difference it makes when you don't add gesso. So here we go. You will see that it is quite difficult to see where I have removed the paint. It has left a pattern, however it is more of like a ghost type imprint rather than anything else. You can see it clearer on this one. I think one thing that you'll find if you don't use gesso on a surface like this is that the paint will just soak into the paper, the substrate, and you won't get that kind of cleaner image you get when you do add the gesso first. But it still creates an interesting mark, and it's still quite nice to do. It just gives it that more subtle look. And if you're not careful, you can end up rubbing away the paper on the surface, so you have to be a little bit careful. Make sure your baby wipe or cloth isn't too wet. So I'm just adding the black around this figure that I found in the Golden Oldie collector's book with all the die cuts in, and again just adding that little bit of black around the edge and adding the reductive stenciling too. So then you can see it a bit clearer now it's dry. So it's kind of there, but it's not as sharp as it would have been. Now, the reason I'm adding this stamping around is just to soften that edge where the black goes up to. And then I just decided I was going to have some fun with some coloured Posca pens and create kind of like a confetti style of dotty background. So I just grabbed as many coloured Posca pens as I could find and just added some dots around the figure. So this is a really nice and simple tag really, but I think it ended up being one of my favourites because I just loved all the little rainbow colours around the figure, and it was lots of fun to create. So yeah, I've pretty much used rainbow colours for this. As you would imagine, I have lots of coloured Posca pens, and yeah, just creating this kind of look was so simple. You could do the same using paint. If you don't have Posca pens, you can just as easily do this. Using the end of a paintbrush, you can just add dots of paint on. You could even just do it as splatters. If you covered over the figure with a piece of paper first, you could add rainbow splatters to your page as well. That would work just the same. But this was quite therapeutic and relaxing to do. So once it was all nice and dry, I've then gone in with a Signo Uniball in white and added a white border, and I've also added some white dots as well, particularly around the edge where the black, the heavy black meets the edge where I've put the stamping. It just helped kind of soften those edges a little bit more, just adding a few white dots just to kind of soften the marks on the edges there. So, and adding the white dots in amongst all the colours as well added another level of contrast. So I was quite happy with how this kind of came together. and the look that it achieved. So she looks like she's having a proper celebration, doesn't she? And then I found a quote as well to finish off the tag, from one of Marlene's sticky quotes books. And I think this was a quote about being colourful. I can't hold it still. Dazzle them with colour. Yeah, doesn't that just work for this one? Perfect. Okay, so I've got that stuck on and stuck the tab on as well, and then that was that one finished. So now on to day 24. It was this cool kind of geometric stencil, and I am using blue up at the top, and then I think I go in with green at the bottom. Yes, creating like a landscape with this stencil. And that's the wonderful thing about stencils, is they're so versatile. You can get an imprint one way, and if you flip it over or turn it through 90 degrees, you get a completely different impression. So there's so many ways, and they're so versatile. So I've used sky and turquoise at the top and lime and evergreen at the bottom, and then I've just watered the colours down and just added like a bit of a wash over the top of that, just to take the white away. And you can still see the stenciling behind, but we've just got rid of the whiteness on the tag. And there was no gesso on this tag either, it was just, I went straight in with my colour. So then I decided I would go for some sort of houses and buildings today. All these little quirky, whimsical buildings, I really liked them, and just found a little collection of ones that I kind of thought would work. And I was going to group those on the bottom of my tag. And I needed to find something to ground them as well, so they're not kind of floating around. And this was just perfect. This kind of green arc thing was great, like almost like a hill in the front. So I'm sticking that on. Obviously it's overlapping. I'm going to trim it down so that it fits properly, and then I'm going to place some of the buildings behind and some in front, just so that it all kind of works nicely, and just grouping them so that they sit together well. Perfect. Then I've just added a little bit of stamping using the dotty stamp and some text as well. I do love using text stamps on my work. I just think they give it that kind of slightly grungy look, which it works really well. And then of course a quote. So this was another, oh, and I've added a sun as well, I noticed. Really simple. This was so easy to pull together. This little challenge has been so much fun. I have loved it. I really hope Marlene does another stencil calendar next year. So I did end up adding a tab as well on there, but it was after I'd finished filming that I realised I needed to pop it on. And then this was day 25, right? So I'm going to be completely honest, I found this one a bit of a challenge, and I wasn't mega excited by it when I'd finished it. It's probably one of my least favourite, which is funny, because it's probably like it's the most important day in the whole calendar. But anyway, it was this kind of collection of buildings with the lighthouse and the beams of light. So I decided I would stencil it at the bottom, go through with black to start off with to get that imprint through, and then I am painting night around in the top half of the tag, so that's going to be the night sky. I'm pulling that colour around all the buildings, and I am painting over where the light beams are going to go, but you'll see why in a minute. It was easier to kind of do it like this, I thought, rather than paint around the light beams. So I'm going to pull that colour all the way to the top. So that is Night from Dina Wakley. And then I'm going to add a bit of black over the top in some places to kind of just create those darker areas in the sky. And then once that was dry, I then outlined the buildings. So I went in and added details on the windows and just added the walls in and kind of just sketched in just to make them look a bit more buildingy, really, because at the minute they were just stencil blobs, just to try and pull that together and make it all feel more like a picture. So now I wanted to add the beams of light on from the stencil. So I'm masking off the buildings using some masking tape, just so that it leaves the place where the light beams are. And then once I've done that, I'm going to line the stencil back up with the images behind. And I'm going to go in with some white first, just to push that dark colour away. And then keeping the stencil in place, I very carefully gave that bit of a dry. And then once it was dry, I went in with the yellow over the top. Careful not to burn my fingers. Those heat tools do get very, very hot. And then I grabbed my watercolour pencils and just had a bit of fun playing, colouring in, adding different shades and things to the light and buildings, giving them a bit of colour and making them feel more whimsical and colourful. I don't often use my watercolour pencils, so it was quite fun to do actually, just to kind of play with colours. Yeah, and of course, pencil needed sharpening. Very annoying. Why is that so annoying? Why do they always do that? The one colour you want and the lead falls out of it. Very annoying. So I'm adding the colours on, and then I went in with a bit of white as well, just to add a bit of a kind of idea of reflection and give the building that kind of roundness. And then added lots of colours to the other buildings too, and a little bit of shadow as well, using a Stabilo oil pencil. So then to finish off, because I've got all of that tag left, I decided I would use some heat embossing to add the stars on. So I am just stenciling the stars here, nothing else, using some heat embossing ink and a sponge just to get that embossing fluid through the stencil. And just making sure I can kind of fit them in, squeeze as many stars in as I can. And then I've got a silver embossing powder. Of course, it went everywhere. I wasn't very careful then. And here you can see I'm just going in with a brush and just getting rid of bits where it hadn't quite heat embossed properly, but then I decided I wasn't really that bothered, so it didn't matter. And looking at it now, I think it would also have worked quite nicely with a few white splatters on the sky too. But anyway, this was what I kind of ended up with for day 25. Found a quote that would work for the last tag. So I hope you've really enjoyed this little series of videos as much as I have enjoyed creating them. Thanks for watching, thanks for all your comments, and I hope to see you again soon.